Hello and welcome to GrossiMath.com, where math is for everyone. Today we're going to review how to match an equation to a graph for the TSI. Okay, so let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is take a look at our graph, and it says which equation is on the graph. And you can see here that I have 4 equations but only one line. So only one can be the correct answer. Alright, so this is a TSI strategy video, and I like to use a basic strategy for this. Some teachers might teach it a different way, and that is okay. There is more than one way to solve any math problem, no matter what. But the way I like to do it is tell my students, well, if you can get numbers from a graph, okay, and this is a useful strategy for many different graphs, if you can get numbers from a graph, like nice clean points, use those points. So let's make a little grid of x's and y's. Now to confirm a line, you need 2 points. So this one, the point is 0, the x is 0, and the y value is 2. And on our second value, we're going to have the x being 4 and the y being -3. Okay, so now what I can do is actually replace the values in my equations, and that will help me immensely with finding my correct answer. The thing that we're looking for here is to replace these letters with these numbers in a way that makes sense. And what I mean by that is, suppose I was to get 3 equals 3. Okay, that would be correct because that actually makes sense. 3 does equal 3. But if I get something that does not make sense, like 5 equals 3, well, obviously that does not make any sense. So this is much closer to what I'm looking for. This is not what we're looking for at all. Okay, so let's get started here. The first thing you should do is look for the number 0. That's always very convenient. Okay, and what we can do is look at what would happen when I put 0 in for x. Well, here, if I substitute, I'm going to put y equals 5/4 x plus 2. And then I would have here the y I will replace with parentheses and put a 2. So that y became this 2 right here, equals 5/4, and now I'm going to put in this 0, and then that's going to be plus 2. Okay, so what I want you to see here is that 5/4 times 0, anything times 0 is going to make 0, so I get 2 equals 0 plus 2, and 0 plus 2 is obviously 2. So that makes sense. So point number 1 confirmed for choice A. So let's see. Point number 1 confirmed for choice A. I'll put a little note over here so that I remember that it matched point 1, and also we're going to check also point 2. Okay, so it matched point 1. Now, what would not match point 1? Now, we said that anything that times is here would make a 0. And so really, what did I keep? I kept the positive 2. It just kept coming down and down and down, and then it was my answer. So let's see what else I would put in for the 0 that would match up with my y of 2. If I put a 0 here, this whole thing is going to turn into 0, and I would still get y being 2. So this equation could be correct. If I put a 0 here, this whole term will turn into 0, and I get y being -3/4. That helped out big time because now I can eliminate c. And if I put a 0 here, I get positive 2 again. So all right, now we need to use our second point, our backup point, to help us figure out, well, let's see what we'll get. All right, so we're going to put in here y equals, we're going to check the second point. So this was point number 1, and now we're going to check point number 2. So y equals, okay, 5/4, parentheses, plus 2, and here I'm going to put my, or I'm sorry, y equals 5/4. We should have put parentheses for that y. That should have been a -3, and that should have been a 4 in parentheses just here. So what did I do? I changed this letter y from my first equation to the -3 from the grid, because that's where y's are coming from. And then I changed this letter x to parentheses 4, because 4 and -3 go together. 4 in the x and -3 in the y. Okay, so let's keep going. -3 equals. Okay, well, if you studied fractions, you know that 4 on top and 4 on bottom we can cross out. They become 1s, and I end up with 5 plus 2. And I'm going to get negative 3 equals 7. Okay, so that is out. So this guy is out. He matched number 1, but he did not match number 2. All right, so let's try another equation. So we'll try point number 1 in this equation. Y equals negative 5/4 x plus 2. Put my parentheses, negative 5/4 parentheses plus 2. That came out messy. And we're going to put in, we did our 0 points already, so we don't have to worry about those anymore. We used those, remember, when we were writing here and crossing off answer C. So we're going to keep going with negative 3 and 4. Again, remember, the negative 3 goes in for the y. That's why it's on the left now. And the x is 4, so the x became 4. Okay, so let's keep going. Negative 3 equals, the 4's cross off once again. I get negative 5 plus 2. Negative 3 equals, and negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. Okay, so this guy matched point 1, this guy, and this guy. They all matched point 1. However, point number 2 matched this guy also. And that means that B is my correct answer because it matched both. It matched point number 1 and point number 2. They both came out with an answer that makes sense. Okay, so for the first point we put in a 0 and we got positive 2. And for the second point we put in 4 and we came out with negative 3 equals negative 3. All right, so hopefully you learned something today. If you can confirm, we learned how to confirm the graph of a line by substituting number values for letter values. Very useful on an exam. All right, so I hope you learned something today. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and to visit the website at www.grossimath.com.